arrest was made due to a threat on a local school. And as the drought continues with no sign of relief in sight, is the city prepared? Good evening and welcome to NAZ Today. I'm Brooke Cowell. Thanks for tuning in. Show Low police have arrested a man who is accused of making threats on White Mountain schools. 18-year-old Stephen Carpenter was charged with disrupting an educational institution. This started as an anonymous threat on Whisper. Officers say the threat wasn't made against a specific school. They believe Carpenter had the means to carry out the threat. Last night, we reported on a fatal accident on Townsend-Winona Road in East Flagstaff. Tonight, the victim's identity has been released. 31-year-old Kyle Minder of Flagstaff was pronounced dead on scene after he struck a utility pole with his motorcycle. Responding law enforcement were unable to resuscitate Minder, and the utility pole snapped into two pieces. Sergeant Jerry Blair of the Coconino County Sheriff's Department told NAZ Today that some of the causes of this crash are still under investigation.
Reconstruction is not complete yet, but we certainly believe that speed may have been a factor in this case, and we're certainly investigating that possibility.
In other news, one Flagstaff woman's family may not be able to rest easy just yet, but investigators are still working to bring Trudy Lawson of Flagstaff home.
Coconino County Sheriff's deputies and detectives continue to actively investigate the disappearance of local longtime Flagstaff resident Trudy Lawson.
The Sheriff's Department has been receiving leads every day that may point to Lawson's location. None have proved conclusive, but law enforcement is following up on all tips with hopes of a happy reunion for Lawson's family in sight.
We really hope that we can bring this case to a positive conclusion in the near future.
On Thursday, a jury returned guilty verdict against a man charged in the 1991 killings of 9 people, including 6 monks. The killings occurred at a Phoenix Buddhist temple. Jonathan Duty was 17 when he was accused of the slayings. He was found guilty in 1993 and sentenced to 281 years in prison. Duty received a second trial after an appeals court threw out his conviction, believing investigators obtained his confession improperly. That trial ended in a mistrial. Jurors in the third trial found Duty guilty of 9 counts of first-degree murder and 11 counts of robbery and burglary. Duty faces multiple life sentences. Sentencing is set for March 14th. And unseasonably warm temperatures and a long dry spell make us wonder how the continuing drought affects our water supply here in northern Arizona. NAZ Today's Ryan Maderick visited the Lake Mary water treatment plant and has this report.
The Lake Mary Water Treatment Plant is the hub for Flagstaff's water needs. As we approach a record-breaking dry spell, where does the city stand in its water supplies?
What a lot of people don't realize is that the reservoir that we use for our surface water production, Lake Mary, is actually in much better shape this year than it was last year. Last year we rolled into the new year, Lake Mary was at like 18% capacity. This year we rolled into the new year and we were over 30% capacity. So we expect to be in great shape this summer.
Lake Mary isn't the only source of water available to Flagstaff. Flood says out of the 27 wells available to the city, only 7 are in use. The large number of groundwater sources provides redundancy.
Well, the groundwater sources are, they're dependable. They're always there. The problem with Lake Mary is that some years it fills up and some years it doesn't.
Unlike groundwater, Lake Mary's surface water can't be stored for long periods of time.
Really, when we have the lake, we use it first. It's less expensive to run the surface water, and if we don't use it when we have it, the dry air at temperatures in the summer months, it evaporates and dries out. So it's kind of a use it or lose it thing with Lake Mary. When we have it, that's our primary source.
In order for water levels to remain normal, Lake Mary relies on snow runoff from Ormond Mountain. With a lack of snowfall, the city relies on the many well fields throughout the town.
We'll shift sources. We do that throughout the year anyway, so the citizens won't have any worries about us meeting the water supply.
For NAZ Today, I'm Ryan Maderick.
Ever wonder what it takes for a dog to become a police dog? And Kim Kraft brings you more tax tips coming up.
Hi, I'm Terry Markson. As seasons change, so does the inventory at Terry Markson Chevrolet Cadillac. But before we make room for the 2014 Cadillacs, we've still got a huge selection of brand new 2013s to choose from. Models like the powerful CTS, the ATS voted 2013 Car of the Year, the popular SRX crossover, and Cadillac's crown jewel, the Escalade. You can always count on our same relaxed, no pressure environment. Terry Markson Chevrolet Cadillac, real hometown value.
Not all Department of Public Safety officers are human. NAZ Today's Tressa Tedrick followed out how a man's best friend takes part in fighting crime.
This is Koss. Koss is a member of the K-9 unit for the Flagstaff Department of Public Safety. Koss was trained in the field of personal protection in the Netherlands. Officer Burns praises Koss for his experience in many areas.
Whether that's going out and biting somebody, finding somebody to bite. There's also, they trained in searching areas. If somebody was to throw a gun or throw an object into a field, he could go search that field and find that object.
On an average day, Koss spends his time with Officer Burns on the interstate looking for criminal activity.
The Flagstaff DPS provided me with some narcotics to place inside this truck to see how Koss reacts.
If Koss detects drugs, he receives the command, charges to the car, sniffs around the area, and stares point blank at where the drugs are hidden. Not all dogs can do this line of work. Burns says Koss demonstrates what it takes to do the job.
Loves to work. Like I said, he's a driven dog, so when I'm out in the morning doing my chores and he knows it, or he thinks it's a work day, he'll actually go mess around for a little while and then he'll go sit by my car. So we look for high drive dogs that have that courage to go out and find somebody, confront them, and if they need to, bite that person.
Never a dull boy, Koss easily switches from work to play mode.
Koss is a great dog. He's an easy-to-use dog. He loves to work, but he has a great switch. When he can go out, he can bite somebody, and then he'll come back in my car and he'll put his paw on my shoulder to pet him more, or, you know, he's just a really easy dog.
The job comes with some perks. Officer Burns and Koss have a real man's best friend relationship.
For NAZ Today with videographer Gavin Dunham, with Koss, I'm Tressa Tedrick.
We continue now with our series of tax tips. Kimberly Kraft talks to Bill Brunson from the IRS, who tells us, believe it or not everyone has to file a tax return.
Welcome back, Bill Brunson from the IRS.
Kimberly, thanks for having the Internal Revenue Service on.
Yeah, we're continuing with our tax tips. And according to your prompts, I'm going to ask you, who has to file?
Not everybody has to file a tax return. It's primarily based on your marital status and the amount of income that you have. So let's say that you're filing as a single individual and you have income of excess of $10,000, then you would have a filing requirement for 2013. Married couple filing jointly, both spouses under 65, we're looking at $20,000. And then there are other criteria. Let's say that you have self-employment income and it's in excess of $400. That's going to cause a filing requirement. Or you took a premature distribution from a pension fund because there's a penalty associated with that, you have a filing requirement. Now those are must situations, the code has outlined it, but there are may situations, such as I'm a college student working part-time.
That's my next question. We have a large college population here, and you recommended that I ask you about those under 18 or at that age. So is there something that they should be following at this point?
If you're still being claimed as a dependent on your parents' return, which a lot of people are in college, and you have that part-time job, that tax that's withheld at source is probably fully refundable back to you. So all that federal income tax that was held when you were working that job, you would want to get that back, and the way to do it is to file a tax return. And then there's a couple of other things out there, but one that's very important is called the Earned Income Tax Credit. It's a refundable credit, which means it can cause a refund. So if you're earning around $52,000 a year or less, you would want to see if you do qualify for this very important credit. And all the information we're talking about today, Kimberly, is available at irs.gov.
Well, it is also available at our website, naztoday.com. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Kimberly.
We are closing in on an all-time record with no precipitation. Will it last? Meteorologist Lee Bourne has your full weather forecast coming up.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
tried all kinds of TV services. The phone company wasn't cutting it, so I cut down. Spotty satellite? Nah, that dish wasn't appetizing. But the all-new Suddenlink? It comes with free HD and a picture so sharp it makes real life look lame. Now I have up to 300 channel choices, earloads of digital music, 10,000 on-demand titles, and new TiVo Stream that turns my tablet into a TV and lets my DVR take road trips. I've seen the future of TV, and the future is easy.
All right, since there's no snow on the ground, I figured we reminisce about finer times. Found this picture on the National Weather Service's Facebook page this morning, and today marks the 4th anniversary of an historic snowstorm here in Flagstaff. Back in 2010, this is a picture outside the National Weather Service office, and if we're not going to go through all this text, but it was 54.2 inches of snow that came down over a 5-day time period here in Flagstaff, the second biggest snowstorm in history, and of course, we know what it looks like outside right now. Today, a little bit cooler out there. Surface high pressure. Another weak, cold, dry cold front went through the Rockies. Surface high pressure, northeasterly breeze out there. Today, temperatures down around 10 degrees or so from where we were yesterday. Not really cool, right around average for this time of year. Mid-40s today in Flagstaff for early morning low, right on average of 18 degrees. Haven't had any precipitation around here and since December 21st. So December 22nd is when we track this dry streak back to, and that puts us at 33 days, including today. That's the 5th longest dry streak in 115 years of record keeping here in Flagstaff. You got to go all the way back to 1898, the longest dry streak, 39 days, set back in 1917, and it looks like we are going to break that as there is nothing in the forecast. So we're going to go all the way to the 30th and probably all the way through January without any precipitation, and the only other time we've had no precipitation in January here in Flagstaff in record keeping once, and that was back in 1972, and it looks like that's going to happen again. We're not the only ones in this dry streak. Here is a look at the last 30 days of precipitation and the percent of normal across the west, and all these dark reds, that's 0 to less than 10% of normal. All of Arizona, all of California, Nevada, much of Utah as well. The Rockies doing a little better, right around 50% of normal, and so of course we just looked. We haven't had any precipitation around here in 30 days here in Flagstaff, so we're at 0% of normal, as is all of Arizona. And here's a look at the west and our nemesis, high pressure. Not hard to see, nothing penetrating through this high pressure. All storm systems well up into Canada and then down into the eastern half of the country that's having quite a winter over there, cold and snowy. Quite the opposite here in the west. Okay, for us overnight tonight, I think we're going to see some increasing high clouds. They're coming in out of the subtropics, going for an early morning low of 22 degrees. We'll continue with breezy weather, still a little bit on the cool side tomorrow, although this isn't really cool, but cooler than the 50s we've been experiencing. Forecasting 45 for our Friday, and then a warming trend as we get into the weekend. Here's a look at how we round out the work week across the state. 60 in Sedona, 58 for you in Payson, 51 Winslow, and Tuba City, 51 degrees. Okay, the extended forecast, it's mostly sunny the whole way through. We do have a partly cloudy day out there tomorrow. Temperatures start to warm throughout the coming weekend. We're back into the 50s all the way through next week. The dry spell just keeps on keeping on. And for you down in Sedona, temperatures quite lovely for this time of year, mid-60s, and that doesn't look bad at all.
You know, I actually want snow. It's my last year here. I want to see some snow on the ground. What's going on?
I'm going to try my best for you, Brooke. I've been talking to my people, and it looks like we may get into a pattern change here, and I've said this before, right around the 5 or 6 days into February, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Is this going to be a huge storm or what?
It's hard to say right now, but that would certainly be nice for your last year here.
I hope so. All right, well, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.